These are the Funes Gortex gloves from Dainese.
I'm Jim.
I'm Duke.
This is Moto Gear Review.
From far away they came to us with knowledge.
Jim's going to run us through the specs on these gloves, and then we'll talk about his good stuff.
There's
Jim?
a lot of good stuff.
Take it away.
So these gloves are a size extra large. They fit me really, really well. Normally, a large or extra large, depending on the brand. They are Gortex, and they have Gore Grip technology, which bonds the Gore-Tex layer to the outer shell. And they have goat skin leather on the palms and a synthetic suede material as well. It's very soft to the touch. They have Primaloft gold insulation, and they have something that's called cross-core technology in them, which is a way that they bond the insulation to the inside of the glove as well. Protect knuckle armor on both of these. It is pretty rigid knuckle armor. There is a visor wipe on the left finger here. They do have smart touch features on the thumb and forefinger, and they are CE level 1 rated. So they are actually tested for abrasion and impact resistance.
Sounds like a solid glove in the specs and the build, but what do you think about them?
Because the specs do not tell the entire story.
That's right.
So these gloves are fantastic for sport touring and touring during the winter months. So if you have somewhere that you live and it gets down, below 50 degrees, that is really where these gloves are going to start to shine.
Take 4 on the likes because our freaking Sony camera sucks. You guys don't know, but it's been like, I don't know, an hour and a half since the last 2 seconds of the video.
Of failed filming.
Nice gloves, Jim. Nice gloves. Specs sound nice, but just because the specs sound nice doesn't mean they are nice.
That's only half the story.
And that's why we're Moto Gear Review. Jim here is going to take us through his likes, what he appreciates about these Funes gloves from Dainese. What you got, Jim? What do you like?
There was a lot to like about these things. I love these gloves, in fact. I have been very, very happy with them. First and foremost, the fit on these is outstanding. I have a wider hand, shorter fingers, fat fingers. Finding gloves for me is always a chore. I got to go in person, try them on, yada, yada. But I actually ordered these off of Dainese's website because nowhere else really carried them. Oh, I was like, there's a spider.
Spiders, yeah, spiders everywhere.
I'm used to brown recluse in my house.
Carry on. What else?
So the fit on them is awesome. Right out of the box, they were super comfortable. They fit like a glove. And I have had no issues with any kind of discomfort, nothing poking me inside. I mean, the fit is just really, really nice on these. And
How does it feel when you're gripped around the throttle and the bars?
So these have pre-curved fingers. As you can see, this is my hand fully relaxed.
Yeah.
So there is a very aggressive curve on these gloves. It helps so much when you have a glove this insulated and this thick to have a really aggressive pre-curve on it, so you're not sitting there having to squeeze a bunch of layers onto a throttle.
A lot of material, yeah.
Yeah, so the good thing is they saved a lot of physical space by using, one, the Gore Grip technology, which bonds the Gore-Tex layer directly to the outer shell of the glove, and they have a cross-core technology that bonds the Primaloft layer to the inside of the Gore-Tex. So all 3 layers are actually completely bonded together. So what that means is when you're on the throttle, holding onto it, and you're moving your hand back and forth, there is no movement of the glove off of your hand or moving around. The whole glove moves with your hand and with the throttle, so there's no slippage whatsoever.
Yeah, I've got
And it's awesome.
pair of colder weather gloves, and the material inside, the insulation layer, kind of slips and slides. So I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's really a pain when you pull your hand out and the inner layer tries to like come out with your hand.
And then you're trying to shove your fingers back in there.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
So that's crazy. That's really crazy. That's something to appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And speaking of the Gore-Tex layer, these things are 100% waterproof. I know they have their guaranteed waterproof for life and all that, but I have legitimately tested these out in absolute downpours, cold weather, cold rainy weather, and they have not failed me at all. I've been completely dry, and unless I'm out there for a really long time and the wind is just cutting them, they have kept me warm up to an hour of riding in like 35-degree weather, which is fantastic for a non-heated glove. Any colder than about freezing or 30 degrees or so, I'm going to go with my heated gloves, especially if it's like a couple hours ride or from commuting back and forth or whatever. But for anything above freezing, which is what Dainese says that these gloves are meant for, is above freezing winter weather.
What they're rated for, specs.
Right.
So let's say you get below, you're out and it's 30 and it's dropping and it gets 28, 20s. Do you think these would suffice with heated grips and these gloves?
So I have heated grips on my Tracer 9 GT, and it depends on my hand guards. So I'm using the Blizzard hand guards from Barkbusters. If I have that and it's dropping into like the upper mid 20s, I can go about a half hour or so. And then it starts, even the heated grips, the cold starts cutting right here through the fingers. But if I have the Barkbusters, it's kind of like cheating because it takes almost all of the wind chill off of them.
Yeah, that's the big deal.
The heated grips get pretty darn hot on that thing, and I can do the 20s with these things on with heated grips, full blast, with the winter hand guards on it.
All right.
Now, a lot of that is cheating. If I were going to say, if I was on something like my XSR,
I call it preparing well. Okay.
Right. I ride through the winter, and I have to be ready for it.
That's right.
If you're on something like my XSR 900, and it's a fully naked bike, no protection, no nothing, your core is going to get cold, and that makes your hands get cold a lot faster. It's significantly harder to keep your extremities warm, of course. So it is bike dependent and how you have your bike set up, I would say.
What else do you like about these gloves?
So the wrist enclosures, or wrist adjusters, I should say, are something that I haven't really seen in a lot of gloves, and they just work so well on these ones. So there's a small adjuster tab that cinches it down around the actual bottom of your wrist so your gloves don't come flying off in the case of an accident. And then there is this other larger stretchy adjustment, and this is to cinch it down, cinch the gauntlet over your riding jacket so you don't have cold wind creeping up into it. And it also helps a little bit with sealing some of the water out, especially if you're in a more upright position, your hands are down more. Everybody knows that if your gloves are over your jacket, you end up with water running down if you're not really moving that fast to wick the water off. But I haven't really had a problem with these. I've ridden them in them on several different bikes, and I haven't ever had water intrusion go up the cuffs and down into my hand. Maybe I'm just lucky, or
it's got a nice gauntlet. You got like 4.5 inches of like
it is
above the wrist gauntlet coverage there.
And that's my next point, is the gauntlet size on these things. I don't know if you can see just how large they are compared to, say, my wrist, but these things are massive. I have some very thick jackets that ride in the winter, a lot of insulating layers, and the thickness around the bottom of my forearm can go up really, really fast. I have zero issue with these gloves fitting over any single piece of riding gear that I own, and they cinch up nice and tight even if they aren't that big. So there is a lot of adjustability to be had in these gauntlets. I really, really like the way Dainese designed these. And I think more winter or wet weather riding gloves should focus more on the gauntlet, because if you have a tiny little hole to try and stick your hand in, then eventually you're just going to I get fed up with it. I shove it under my jacket, and then it's just, I don't know, it's not as comfortable, and it's just, I much prefer having a very large gauntlet to go over the jacket sleeves. Next thing, Dainese says these are touchscreen compatible, and they are.
Oh, are they?
Oh my God, they are. I don't have to sit there and peck at my screen a million times.
I get so mad.
It's so nice. I believe it's only on the thumbs and the forefinger, but that's really all you need anyways. And
see,
just a light touch anywhere on the screen, even if it's wet. When the gloves are wet, and they should work in the wet because they're meant for wet weather riding, being Gore-Tex. They have no issues with touchscreen in the wet, touchscreen in the dry. Weather doesn't affect them at all. I know some gloves I have, if they're leather and they're not touchscreen compatible, when I get a little bit of heat in them, they can start to work a little bit. These things, I can walk outside 30 degrees and just start touching buttons on my phone, and it works perfectly every single time. And I really appreciate them putting the effort into that, because it is very frustrating. Since these are a more touring focused, if you're out on long rides, you don't want to have to sit there and pull over every time you want to do something.
It's not just your phone though. A lot of guys that go on touring do a lot of touring, especially us adventure guys, have dedicated GPS systems.
Right, if you're running
for
the
your
Moto
gloves
Garmins and all that kind of thing. Yeah.
For your gloves to be able to work with them is important. It's nice when it's freezing out too, and you don't want to sit and like take all your stuff off just to screw with your screen. Yeah, so that's a big bonus. I didn't think about how valuable that little aspect is.
And I've had plenty of other gloves that say, yes, they are touchscreen compatible, and they absolutely are not, or they pick and choose when they want to be. These things work every time.
What else you got?
So, protection. I really like the protective features of these gloves. They are CE level 1 rated. They have the palm sliders down here on the fat part of your thumb, or fat part of your palm.
Part of your palm.
So that's really good for impact. This is a very common break when you go down and hit the ground, wrist first. There's even some padding on the inside, like way down the base of your thumb. There's little tiny armor pieces on the tips of your fingers. The knuckle protection is very comfortable. So I know Duke here is not a fan of hard knuckle gloves.
No.
These bend a bit. They're not tremendously stiff, but there is a lot of padding on the inside of them, and that helps alleviate a lot of the pressure that you would get from hard knuckle gloves if you have much taller knuckles.
The extra layers help dissipate the pressure. And so that, for me, it's pressure over a period of time that really starts to hurt my knuckles. And usually I can tell when I put the glove on whether they're going to be a pain, literally a pain later, immediately. I don't get that sense from these. It doesn't like poke me in the knuckle and say like, hey man, I'm going to hurt you.
And you know it.
Not at all. So that is nice, because the actual knuckle protection that's under the material, like this stuff is rigid. That's not soft.
Yeah,
it's
this
not
is
like soft padding. Like
ProTech knuckle armor is what they have in their description. And I've never seen ProTech anywhere else, but I like it. The last thing that I love, which I already touched on a little bit, so I'll go over it briefly, is the Gorgrip technology. Not having your layers inside the glove shift around or get pulled out when you're taking the gloves on and off is awesome, especially if it's wet. Put your hands in and the wetness is trying to pull it out and your gloves go inside out. It's a whole fiasco, and these completely avoid it.
Right on. Is that it for your likes on these gloves?
That about does it, yeah.
About does it, huh? They are some nice gloves, man. So to start off the dislikes, Jim, is there anything about these gloves that you could foresee failing in the future?
So, I mean, the stitching is all double stitching where it should be. I haven't really seen like a wear zone that I'm overly cautious of. Like I have to be careful with them.
Yeah.
On the insides of the fingers here, there is like kind of a single stitch seam, but it has like a stretch material on the inside between the fingers. So there's not like a whole lot of stress going on, but that's one thing I want to watch out for. Fingers could rip, but
if you're wrestling with somebody and they get you in a finger lock and they're really wrenching on your finger.
If Lou Ferrigno is trying to break my fingers, he very well may rip these gloves.
Okay.
But aside from the Hulk prying my hands apart,
I just know in my experience that when I buy some gear, I can usually like pinpoint, I can tell where a weak point is just from experience, right? And so longevity, if you're looking at having these gloves for 5+ years, it's good to know if they have any of those like given weak points.
Right.
Other than what you've mentioned just now, do you think anything stand out to you?
So the only other thing I'm hoping is that these hold on.
Oh, yeah.
So they're, relatively see-through. I mean, they have some thick elastic bands going through the entire thing. But I'm not sure what the stitching looks like internally as far as what attaches this. And this is my favorite part of the glove, is the stretchy gauntlet adjuster. I'm really hoping I'm not overly harsh on them. I know if you're
wrenching them down.
Yeah, if you're grabbing them and yanking them, I'm sure over time they will fail.
Yeah.
But I'm usually not that tough on them, and I haven't had an issue. Like I said, I've been riding with these for probably 5,000 to 6,000 miles now. all through the winter time. So they're getting road debris and grime and salt and everything else on them. And they look basically new. At
Yeah,
this
they
point,
do.
Which
They
is
look
shocking.
new.
They're
Is there anything else you don't like about these gloves?
So the price. They're a little expensive.
How expensive is expensive?
$200. So
That doesn't really blow my mind, though.
it's not insane considering what these gloves pack into them. It's top-notch insulation material. You have Gortex, which automatically jumps the price of anything. But just the craftsmanship, the features, everything about them, I feel very comfortable having spent the $200 on them. That may be way out of some people's price ranges, and that is fine. There are plenty of other options out there.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm spoiled and I like, my niceties. So I feel the price is a very big downside for a lot of people. Not everybody's going to want to spend $200 on gloves, and I absolutely don't blame them.
Yeah, 200's, it's really topping it. Like, they got to be some intensely nice gloves, so that is a bit expensive. Is there anything else you don't like about these gloves?
So I love Dainese. I own a few different articles of gear from them, and unfortunately, these are made in Indonesia. It's a small nitpick, but I know a lot of other Italian companies that are very proud of a lot of their products say made in Italy, and they're really proud. They even put little Italian flags on them and everything. Seeing that these are made in Indonesia, I don't have any qualms with the quality. The quality is there, but that's just a nitpick that I like to see.
Yeah, no,
especially
I'm with
from
you.
Italian companies. They're very prideful in their products, which is great. They should be. It's just one little thing that I noticed about them.
Okay. Anything else that you dislike about these gloves?
That was actually pretty hard to find dislikes because I do absolutely love these gloves so very much.
I know you didn't mention it, but man, I think this is so neat. These are coming on more gloves now. These
yes.
visor wipes. So and we'll get a close up of this, but essentially, it's on your index finger, so you can wipe your face shield on your helmet.
It's like a little windshield wiper.
Yeah, on your finger.
And that one actually works pretty well. I've seen where they have a harder piece of rubber, and it's almost like a squeegee. This one was really soft. I was like, that's not really going to work that great. It's going to be flimsy, and but it works fantastic.
Cool. That's Jim's 10 cents on the Funes Gore-Tex gloves from Dainese.
Thanks for watching.
Oh, thanks for watching. Why are y'all just standing there being awkward?
Polite.
Thanks for watching.
You're welcome. Oh, them.
So I was wearing these gloves this morning in the 35 to 40 degree weather on that thing. And I had a totally different experience than what Jim shared. So I wanted to tell you my input after our review video. These gloves are a little tight around my fingers. They left some lines on my fingers. I'm not so happy with them because in the wind, across the bottom of my handguard, my fingers froze because they didn't have any wind protection. So these gloves are great when you have some kind of wind coverage, some kind of wind protection, but down at 35, 40 degrees with wind hitting them, you still get frozen fingers. And honestly, you lose dexterity. And so when you're trying to grab around the throttle, I have heated grip. So when you're doing that, the resistance of the glove is fighting you, and you're trying to hold that heated grip to get heat to come through. And it's not so great. I'm just not as big of a fan as Senior Jim, and I wanted to share my experience.
Dainese? How do you say it?
Dainese.
Dainese. This is from Dainese.
Dainese.
Dainese. The glove on my hand.
Velcroese. I say Funes.
Funes Good Taurus gloves? Gore-Tex. Of course it's Gore-Tex. I can't read it from here. Dainese.
Yes, they're the Mexican gloves from Dainese.
The Funes Gore-Tex gloves from Dainese.
Why did you go so southern right then?
I was somewhere between like
You were somewhere between Alabama and Georgia. Is what you were fucking between. These are the Funes Gortex gloves. Shake you to death.
for all you out there. Thanks for joining us and watching.
Give us a like and a subscribe. As always, I'm Jim.
I'm Duke.
This was Moto Gear Review. Ride safe.
Now, live free, ride hard.